Listen Up with Jim Potts. Listen up, business owners, CFOs, human resource managers, and all managers and supervisors. Jim Potts is answering and addressing your questions and concerns, helping you stay out of court. Furthermore, please be advised that Jim's answers are not legal advice and are only intended as a guide based on his years of experience. The phone lines are open. 1-855-4-J-POTS. That's 1-855-457-6887. You can also email us at listenup@jameswilliampottsllc.com. Ready to listen up? Here is Jim Potts.
Hey, Jim Potts on the air. Thank you, as always, for tuning in and listening to me. Well, today there's a little excitement in the air for us because of the fact that today we are taping our 100th show, and we're also doing it in front of a live audience. Audience, let's hear a little bit. Let the listeners know that you guys are out there. All right. Well, let's get busy. Today we're going to be a little political. I'm going to be talking about a very sensitive area now that's sweeping the nation, and it's not about the legalized marijuana issue. It's another issue. It's a very sensitive issue that actually involves the LGBT community. The news has shown us that the people that are leading the alternative lifestyle are now making a statement nationally. And whether we agree with it or don't agree with it, it doesn't make any difference. It's here to stay. And as a result of that, we need to make sure that we are assisting them just like we would with any of the other protected groups. Now, Dateline, Houston, November 3rd. Audience. What happened?
Come on, we were all there.
They voted on, the citizens voted to make sure that they don't have access to restrooms.
When you say they, let's just clarify, all right? First of all, what happened was the city of Houston, Texas, had an ordinance that they passed that men in transition can now use the women's restroom. And this was going to apply to businesses as well as employers. So the citizens became very upset with this. Now, when I say in transition, do you guys know what I mean by in transition?
Yes.
Okay, so just to be clear for the audience that's listening that's not here today, in transition simply means somebody that's transitioning from one gender to the next. Gender reassignment is the politically correct terminology that's being used. And basically, the citizens got very upset, and as a result of that, they passed and rushed through a referendum to overturn the city ordinance law that these men in transition could use the ladies' restroom. And it took them 3 months, and they actually passed it. But in the 3 months, any employer or business who did not permit a person in transition to use the restroom, they fined them $5,000. You're talking some serious money. So this is what's important. Dateline, California, 2013. Jerry Brown and the California legislators also did something similar, but they did it with the school districts. I don't know if any of you have kids in school, but grades 1 through 12 now in public schools in California, if a person recognizes that they're in transition or they have a transgender issue, that they can now use any restroom or locker room that they want. Are you guys aware of that? Yes. Transgender students are being able to use the locker rooms. For women, if it's a male transitioning to female, they can do it. Dateline Chicago, about a month ago, there was a family that got upset because their daughter wanted to use the women's locker room. Now, anatomically, their daughter is a male. But the parents are saying that their daughter has been, since 4 years old, dressing as a girl and always felt that she was a female versus a male. Now, when we look at these kind of things, these are things that are very sensitive in nature. Now, from the school's perspective on that, the school stated that one's gender is not the same as one's anatomy. So the question I want to throw out there to you in your work environments, have any of you been in a situation where you've had one of your employees making the transition?
Anyone here?
No. We have actually.
You have had a person? And how has the company, and you notice we're not giving company names, so it's okay. How has the company addressed the issue?
Well, would you mind coming this way just to answer the question, please? Thank you, I appreciate it.
Yeah, sure, Maria.
Thank
So
you.
go ahead.
So fortunately for us, they were in a back office situation. Their work unit was very accepting, so we didn't have any potential harassment issues. The facilities that work unit used were unisex anyway. And so as he went through the transition to become a woman, we did have to educate the staff a little bit on the changes in dress code, because in our business we require men to have short hair. So when he grew his hair out, we had to say, well, he's identifying as a woman. It's okay for women to have long hair. And so the supervisors needed a little bit of education on how to handle those issues, but we were fortunate that it went smoothly.
California addressed that.
Thank you
Very much for that. California addressed that same issue going back as far as 2003. And as what the California legislature stated was that as long as a person dresses within the dress code policy that they self-identify with, then they're good to go. That's how it works. Now, I actually had a banking client that had this issue and called us, and in their particular case, it was a teller. So they were upset because of the fact that it was a teller, and the employees were upset because of the fact that this person was using the restroom, and they wanted to know what restroom. This particular banking client made all of the restrooms unisex. And I can tell you that that's probably the growing trend that I think a lot of employers need to consider, having unisex restrooms. You don't have to worry about it. So, we try to get people to understand and to be tolerant of people that just because they're different doesn't mean that, we shouldn't, assist them. This business is why we have all of these different protected categories. So, some of these protected categories have been around for a very long time. Now, I want to read something to you, and I'm going to ask you what state agency or federal agency you think this might apply to. So I'll give you the choices on the agency first, so while I'm reading this, you could be thinking about what agency you think this might apply to. So one agency is the EEOC, which is the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, the Department of Fair Employment and Housing, which is California. Then we have OSHA, and then we have the Department of Industrial Relations. Now, I want you to hear something. Restricting employees to using only restrooms that are not consistent with their gender identity or segregating them from other workers by requiring them to use gender-neutral or other specific restrooms singles those employees out and may make them fear for their physical well-being. Bathroom restrictions can result in employees avoiding using restrooms entirely while at work, which can lead to potentially serious physical injury or illness. Who do you think put that out as a guideline? Who did you say?
Do you mind repeating that again?
Come on.
One person says
Be
OSHA.
brave.
What did you say, sir?
I said OSHA, sir.
You said OSHA? I thought you said the EDD. No, you didn't say the EDD? Okay. The unemployment office? No, not the unemployment office.
No, I heard him. I back you up, okay? I heard it. We heard it, right? Yes.
Anybody else? What do you guys think? Because I will tell you that there are no federal laws right now protecting people that are leading the alternative lifestyle. And you two are right. It's OSHA. Now think about that for a second. OSHA is getting in the middle of something like this. It's a safety issue. It's a health issue. It kind of makes sense. To be honest with you, I was surprised when I ended up reading that. Now, I will give you OSHA's restroom guidance. Employees should not be asked to provide any medical or legal documentation of their gender identity to have access to gender-appropriate facilities. Can't ask for it. No employee should be required to use a segregated facility apart from other employees because of their gender identity or transgender status. Now, you tell me in your work environments, what's going to happen when somebody, other than the lady that already spoke, and some of your environments, what's going to happen when Jim leaves the work environment on Friday and comes in Monday dressed as a woman?
Come on.
I'm seeing some smiles
who
out
wants
there.
to take this one? What's going to happen?
It's going to be brutal, isn't it, for some of you? But you know what? What I did appreciate was that is the first person that spoke when she said that they educated. And see, that's the problem. You've got to do the education. You've got to educate the staff. These individuals are as protected as anybody else in the other protected categories, pure and simple. It's like when AIDS first came out. When AIDS first came out, people were running rampant. They didn't know what to do. Everybody was panicking. I had a call from a client that called me and said, Jim, I just found out that our front counter person has AIDS. I said, what's the problem? He said, what about the customers walking in? What do you think? What should we do? I said, well, I would suggest that they not have sex with them. I mean, the reality is it doesn't just spread that way. You know, it doesn't spread that way. And it's what you have to do is educate people, educate the employees in these areas. I commend OSHA on this, but I can tell you that the EEOC is trying to jump into the deep end of the pool. California and 21 other states now do have protections for sexual orientation. Under OSHA standards, employees generally may not be limited to using facilities that are in reasonable distance or travel time from the employee's work site. The leading case in California was actually at Boeing on this issue, aerospace. And this is the leading case where an individual was making a transition and they wanted to put a porta potty out back for the person. Now, it's like, let's be reasonable, all right? Now, how would you handle a business customer coming in and wanting to use the ladies' room? And clearly, it's a man that's dressed in women's clothing.
Suggestions? How would you do it? Come on. You have to start thinking because it may happen.
This lady here is laughing hard. Maybe this lady
Oh.
here can offer us. She's like, no, that's okay. Don't worry about it.
No.
Here's the deal. The deal is, in my opinion, just use common sense. If the person needs to use the restroom, just have a lady go in the restroom, check the restroom out. There's nobody in there. Have the person go in and use the restroom. Somebody stands by the door. If somebody walks up, a lady walks up and says, excuse me, the restroom is being used right now. Could you just wait a moment? That's all. Or direct them to one of the other restrooms that might be available. We have to apply common sense to these things because people will sue. There's no doubt about it. And people here today, know that. Now, let me just tell you that actually the EEOC has addressed this issue, although there's no federal guidelines. The Equal Employment Opportunity Commission has jumped into the deep end of the pool with hearing some cases. So let me just tell you, from January to September of 2013, there were 790 LGBT charges filed. In 2014, there was 1,120. And already this year, there's almost 700. What is that telling you? Okay, things are changing. When things change, the employer has to change with it. Again, education is critical to this process. And everybody's rights have to be respected. Now, the other situation with this is that if you have people that are using the restrooms, people that are in same-sex marriages now, and again, I have a national audience, so I'm speaking on a national basis with some of this, is that we have to have policies in place that support these individuals. And that's not always going to be an easy thing to do, but you're going to have to do it. The dress code policies are important. I don't know that you have to have a separate dress code policy, although is what the OSHA is saying is that there needs to be an expansion of the definition of sex or gender in your policy handbook. Now, I don't know if we're going to go through that yet. I think that's got a time to come yet. There's nothing in the United States Constitution or the California Constitution that says that you can't be personally biased in your feelings about these things. Some people have, religious issues with this, moral issues with this, etc. But as we try to explain to people, you've got to leave those feelings outside the door before you come to work. Everybody has to be treated the same. Some of you have heard me in the past in some of our seminars say things like, you got to be fair, firm, and consistent. Now, the other issues that's being recommended, or the other suggestion, is that you're going to have locker rooms for transgender employees. Now, some of you have businesses where people are in uniforms. Now is what they're suggesting is that you're going to have a separate facility for somebody to change, according to Cal OSHA. Again, they're looking at this like it's a safety issue. EEOC has not addressed it that way. EEOC is addressing it because they had a case where an individual was told that he could not use the men's room, that he had to use, he could not use the ladies' room, he had to use the men's room, and he was in transition. And he sued, and the EEOC's attitude is that it creates a high amount of anxiety and stress for that individual to be forced into a situation. Now, we can't always give choices here because we also have a staff that's going to be concerned about these things because of the privacy issues that are associated with it. So once again, I would still highly recommend that employers start thinking about transitioning the restrooms to unisex restrooms. Now, I was at a client yesterday and we were discussing this, and the only thing that the client wanted to say was that, well, yeah, but the only thing is the ladies don't like using the same restrooms as men. I don't know why that is, ladies.
I don't know why. You think it's the urinals there, maybe?
I think it has something to do with aim.
Oh, possibly. Probably, but I'm not sure. You know,
It has to
somehow
do.
or other,
It
I
has
don't
to
think
do
that's
with,
what it is.
It has something to do with. It has something to do with aim. But at any rate, and there were also.
Cleanliness. Oh, who said that? Okay, maybe that's the reason.
You know what? I got to see if I can find this. I got to tell you this. This was a. I went to go to a client, and I went in the restroom, and they had a sign above that. I got to find this for you, because I had to take a picture of this sign. Let me see if I can find it here real quick, and I told them. I said, and I was getting ready to do, by the way, an AB 1825 seminar. And I told them, I said, yeah, I saw your sign in there. And they said, yeah, why don't you take a picture of it? I said, I already did. But it was, let's see if I can find it real quick. Oh, here it is. Okay, you got to listen to this. Now, this is above the facility, I'll call it. Our aim is to keep this restroom clean. Gentlemen, your aim will help. Stand closer. It's shorter than you think. But wait a minute, I'm not finished. Ladies, please remain seated for the entire performance. So there's an employer, okay, because this was a unisex restroom, okay? They wanted everybody to make sure that they were being courteous for the next person through the door. At any rate,
Maybe we can duplicate that.
ladies remain seated for the entire performance. I'm telling you, I was on the floor and they're screaming. They couldn't hear me, but anyway. But here's something else that they're doing. You know what SDI is, right? State Disability Insurance. They're saying a person that's transitioning or a person that's being stressed out about this can apply for state disability insurance eligibility under gender dysphoria. I can see out there in the audience, they're like, huh? What is that? I looked that up. It's called GID. Gender identity distress is what it is. And basically, it says that the discontent experienced by those who have gender identity issues with the sex or gender that they were assigned to at birth. So this whole thing now is creating a whole new avenue for psychological testing, psychological evaluations, and things of that nature. So, I'll tell you the same thing. It's an area that is not going to go away. We're going to have to make these adjustments, and you might as well make them sooner than later because the laws are coming. California's law is already in place, so we already know that. That's been around since 2002. It was in 2003 that they came out with the dress code policy. All right. Now, California actually has several protected categories that most people don't know about. They know about the one for sexual orientation, but they also have one sex gender identity. They have sexual orientation. They now also have transgender status. And now under the Fair Employment Housing Act, sexual orientation also includes heterosexuality. And I had a claim like that, by the way, a few weeks ago, where a guy is claiming that he was discriminated against because he's a heterosexual. And for those of you who don't know who heterosexual is, that means people that believe in the male-female relationship. That's a heterosexual. So this guy
You
was
mean
applying
straight? Is that what you
straight.
mean?
Yeah, that's another expression for straight, Maria.
Okay.
Homosexuality and bisexuality. So now these also are actual or perceived protections. So even if somebody perceives themselves or you look at somebody and you make a determination, go back to the high school days. I remember when I was in high school, I was a jock. And in high school, anybody that didn't play sports, as far as we were concerned, he was gay. And if he was in the band, we knew he was gay. Now, of course, it wasn't until years later that you realize that these are just the high school little things that go on. But we have to understand, even if it's perceived, that they may not be true. They have males who grew up in an all-female environment, and maybe they're a little bit soft-spoken. Maybe the way that they carry themselves is a little bit different because they didn't have any male guidelines. And by the way, let me put this out there because I don't want to be getting all this hate mail. So for those of you that are listening out there, don't be sending me all these emails that I'm a homophobic and all of that, because I'm not. Okay, I want to make that just clear. Because we will get those letters and those emails about things when you don't. I mean, I'm all for this. I think there should be the protections, and I think everybody should be treated, treated equally, no matter how they are. Okay, I want to end with that one, but I want to throw out a question to the audience now. Aside from this, what do you think is the biggest challenge employers are faced with their staff? Now, everybody out here has employees. What do you guys think is the biggest challenge that you have with your staff?
Anyone?
I'm not going to mention your name on the air, so don't worry about that. So,
No challenges here. Problem free.
what's the
Everything
challenge?
is really
one of the
good and
biggest
dandy.
challenges you have? Well, let me throw out. What about personality conflicts? Oh, now it's coming. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah,
Okay.
Jim. That's a personality conflict.
So come on, tell us about something that has happened lately.
I think it's just
Excuse me.
for employees to feel everybody is treated fair and equal in the environment.
So nobody's feeling discriminated against. Right. Well, I told this story the other night at a meeting that I was at, that we turned around and we got this call. And the call was, Jim, we've got a problem. And I'm like, what's the problem? Well, the problem is that a lady has come to us and told us that she feels that she's being bullied. Now, bullying is a big deal in California now. Okay, well, not just California, it's national, I should say. But now with the training, they want us to do the bullying aspect of it. But they turned around and she said that this lady has now come to her and complained. And I said, well, what's the issue? Well, she's being treated differently. With the potluck, nobody will eat her food. If she touches anything on anybody's desk, the person will pick it up and clean it off with a sand, one of those wipes or whatever. I said, well, why are they doing this? And she said, well, Jim, what happened is that we have a restroom that's right there in the department. And what has happened is that the ladies have determined that when she goes in to use the restroom, she's not, I see some smiles going on already. She's not washing her hands. And I'm like, well, how did they figure out that she's not washing her hands? They said because what they've done is time from the time that the toilet flushes to the time the door swings open. Now, who has the time to figure that out? I don't know, ladies, is that something that's an issue for you?
It's a proven technique, isn't it?
The reality is that we get all of these calls, they leave the door open because they know I'm allergic to bees, or she leaves the door open because she knows I'm allergic to bees and she's hoping a bee's going to fly through the door and sting me. They're playing this music that they know I don't like. I mean, we get these calls, and those are challenges. And employees, when they have other issues with employees, they want to call that harassment. Now, look, that doesn't really meet the definition of harassment, really. Harassment has got to be based on a protected category, as you guys probably already all know. But so that's one of the challenges. Did anybody think of any more challenges? That's the main one, personality conflicts. What about the equal pay thing? We talked about it before we went on the air. You have problems with people with the compensation, the method of compensation? No issues there? Everybody's happy with that?
Yeah, this is a very, very good group. No problems at all.
I don't know. Maria's always complaining
Yes.
about how much money she makes.
Well, yes. I mean, I'm overpaid,
I think she is
I have to
overpaid.
complain about it.
We have a gentleman in the front row.
You have a question.
Well,
Excuse me.
just a question. How do you handle a situation where you want to give an employee that's doing a good job a raise, but your bookkeeper, who is the person responsible for making changes in the pay, has an issue with now they're making more money than me, and they actually should get a pay cut. The bookkeeper should, because they're there's not as much work for them, and the salesperson, they're actually bringing in the revenue. And so you have this animosity from the bookkeeper, like they're not being treated fairly because they've been there longer. You have these issues of seniority and all of that. So I just wanted to put that out there. How is that?
It's easy. Get rid of the bookkeeper.
Exactly. I was going to say.
No.
No-brainer. That's a no-brainer.
Here's the deal. The deal is you are always going to have that in the environment when the person gets to see who's being paid what. But it's what has to be pointed out to that person is that that's a revenue. No offense to the bookkeeper, but that is a revenue-generated individual that's bringing in money. Because without that person, quite frankly, the bookkeeper is not going to have exactly. So, the sales departments are always the departments that are going to be given a little bit more incentives in order to be able to bring the money in, because that's how a business survives. And if this bookkeeper has been there that long, this bookkeeper should understand that the value, that you're devaluing their responsibilities, but everybody's working under a different job description. And if one job description, somebody is creating the revenue. But the other question I want to ask you, sir, is it a commission-based pay that the person's getting, the salesperson's getting?
That's correct.
Yeah,
It's
well, see, that's
commission-based.
different. That person
It's
works on
incentive.
commission. That person's only worth what they bring in. So the bookkeeper, though, although they may be worth the salary that they're being paid, or as you say, they're not even worth what they're being paid, that's a whole different issue. I'm not mentioning the company name, right? That she has to understand that there is a difference. He's basing it on commissions, and if it's a commission-based structure, I always want the commission. I hope my commission people make more than me. I mean, because if they do, that means I'm in Fat City, and that's how we have to handle it. Okay.
So there you have it, commission structure.
Oh, I knew the answer. I just wanted to throw that out there.
No, I appreciate that.
Well, we wanted you to fire the bookkeeper, though. Excuse me. Yes.
And that, is it a gender difference too, as well as your bookkeeper female or the salesperson male?
Both individuals are female, and there are other issues through the years that have been dealt with, competition, cleanliness in the restrooms because they share the same bathroom, all sorts of issues. And so let me share one situation that I had early on that one thought the other was bullying them and mistreating them, not cleaning the bathroom. And so usually the classic way to handle it is you bring them in, you have a sit-down meeting, talk. Well, what I did something that 8 or 10 years ago solved the problem forever. I said to them, if you two are grown, both over 30 years old, I assume, if you can't work out your differences, you both go home. And once you get yourself together and you can work in an environment that is non-threatening and don't have these type of childlike issues, then come on back to work. Send them both home. Next day they came back. I haven't had a problem ever since.
Sometimes it takes that. All right, with that last comment from that gentleman, it is time to close out this segment. But let me remind you that you can also hear us on Facebook at Listen Up and subscribe to us on iTunes. Just search for Listen Up with Jim Potts. And as a reminder, we take calls every third Friday. We can be reached at 855-4J-POTS or 855-457-6887. Or you can email us at listenup@jameswilliampottsllc.com. Okay, I'm Jim Potts, and I'm going to continue to fight the fight. Thanks for listening.
Thank you for being a part of Listen Up with Jim Potts. We take your calls every third Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time for your questions and concerns. Call us at 1-855-4J-POTS. That's 1-855-4J-POTS. Again, that's every third Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time at 1-855-4J-POTS. Like us on Facebook, subscribe to us on iTunes, and link up with us on LinkedIn. You can also email us at listenup@jameswilliampottsllc.com. Until next time, make it a great week.